Do something, man. People are questioning you.
Shut up. Okay, yep, do that. Sure, guys. Stupid and dumb. Just an idiot. Get your shit together, son. Fuck it. I loved it. Welcome to the DubCast. In today's episode, I will be reviewing the movie Looper and giving my thoughts and analysis on the movie Looper. So let's jump right into Looper. So Looper released in September of 2012. The genre of this movie is a science fiction action thriller. A lot to unpack there, but that is what it's classified as. It has a runtime of an hour and 58 minutes. The budget was $30 million. Director Rian Johnson, familiar with some of his work, stars Bruce Willis, Joseph Gordon-Levitt, Emily Blunt, Paul Dano, Noah Segan, Piper Perabo, and Jeff Daniels. So let's go into, as always, I will go into the non-spoiler section of this movie, give a brief non-spoiler plot synopsis and my overarching thoughts of the movie and my score, and then after that I'll jump into the spoilers and then what I found interesting, funny, stupid in this movie. Okay, so the start of Looper, we are introduced to our main character. His name is Joe, which is Joseph Gordon-Levitt. He is a looper. So what a looper does, this is set in the not too distant future, I believe. And so loopers, what they do, they are sent somebody from the future at a specific time and date. They are given in a notice, and at this time and date they have to be there, and it is somebody that the crime syndicates of the future send back to them to kill, so they don't have to deal with them. So the looper does that, and then strapped to the back of these people that they are sent is either bars of silver or gold. So how they're managed is the crime syndicates in the future sent back a man named Abe, who is a boss in this movie, and he is played by Jeff Daniels, I think. And so he's the one who gives them kind of the silver and gold and manages the present time from being from the future. He's the one they sent back to manage all of these kind of kills and the loopers. So Paul Dano plays a character named Seth, and Seth is Joe's best friend in the movie. And how the looper ends their job is you have to kill your future self so that this closes the loop and there's no loopholes or anything. And so Seth is sent his future self, and he can't bring himself to kill himself or kill his future self and close his loop. So he goes to Joe, and they end up tracking down Seth. Anyways, kind of a relevant plot point, but it's relevant because Joe gets sent his future self, who is Bruce Willis, but he also can't manage to close the loop, not because he didn't want to, because Bruce Willis is just a boss and has gold strapped to his back and blocks the shot with his back and then escapes. So the reason that older Joe, future Joe, wants to come back is he wants to kill this guy named Rainmaker while he's a child, because he's been the one who's been closing all the loops, basically killing all the future selves of the loopers, and he's the one who's going after these crime syndicates one by one and causing a lot of trouble for them. This is why they have to close the loops and they're in trouble in the future. So old Joe comes back to kill Rainmaker as a kid before he becomes this future problem for the mafia / syndicates, whatever. So the only thing we really know about Rainmaker is that he has a synthetic jaw. Okay, so that's it for kind of the premise of it. Now, going into my overarching review of this movie, I really freaking like this movie. It's futuristic, but I thought it was futuristic so much so, but it's not overbearing. I wasn't like, oh, this is just like a stupid future movie. Like everything seemed kind of realistic. There was an explanation for most things future-wise, and it kind of seemed to be like a realistic version of the future, in my opinion. I thought the storyline was very solid, and I thought it was kind of easy-ish to follow. With time travel movies, you always have or time travel shows or movies, you always have the question of like jumping the shark, and is it realistic? Is it whatever? Can you understand it? Can you follow it? I thought that this was pretty easy to follow with like the two versions of the characters. There's kind of a couple of like moments where they jump around a bit, but there's nothing really like. I didn't have to look up a YouTube video explaining this whole movie after, which maybe we'll get into a movie that you have to watch like 10 times. I'll review it, but we'll see. Anyways, I thought this was an easy movie to follow in my opinion. I was never confused. I don't think I even looked up anything after the movie. I was satisfied with how they explained all of the kind of not themes, but ways that the time traveling worked and the loops and all that. So I was satisfied with their use of time travel in the future. So I was kind of left with a lot of questions, in the sense of some of the things that happen in the plot, but they're not necessarily questions that need to be answered. So that wasn't really a big thing for me. I really appreciated Joseph Gordon-Levitt, Bruce Willis, and Emily Blunt's acting in this movie. I thought they were all standouts in this movie, and I really appreciated their performance. And as in terms of the runtime, I thought this movie was not too long, just the right amount of time, 2 hours. They could have maybe even made it a little bit longer, but everything is fine. It's fast. It keeps you moving. There's not really dead points in the movie. I thought 2 hours was a good runtime for it. I kind of wish, one thing I wish is they went more into the story of the city. So obviously the story focuses on Joe and old Joe, but there's kind of this futuristic city where there just seems like there's a lot of poor people and vagrants walking around. So I wish they kind of explained why that had happened or what more was going on, like maybe another 5 minutes explaining that, but maybe I'd also miss something. So that was just a complaint, and again, not really the point of the story, so I understand why they might have not included that. So in terms of the ending, I like the ending personally, but I think there could have been an additional scene or two to help it flourish and mean something later, but we can get into that when I get into the spoilers. So my score for this movie was an 8.6, which is the highest of the 4 reviewed films that I've done so far. So this tops Last Samurai and is in number 1 of the 4 movies with an 8.6. So the strongest movie in my opinion of the 4 that I've reviewed on this podcast so far. So with that being said, let's transition into the spoiler section. So if you have not seen this movie and want to go watch it, go watch now and then come back. Okay, so spoilers of the movie. Basically, old Joe, Bruce Willis, has a map with 3 locations, and one of them contains the location to the Rainmaker. And Emily Blunt and her kid are introduced pretty far into the movie, but they are at one of the locations, which is a farm, which young Joe and old Joe have this dispute at this diner, and young Joe heads for the farm while old Joe heads for the other 2 locations. Basically, old Joe just goes merc mode and just kills everybody until the last possible place, which is the farm. So he ends up killing 2 innocent children. And so Rainmaker is at the farm, obviously. And so we see Rainmaker and his mom, Emily Blunt, have these kind of arguments where he starts getting, Rainmaker, the kid, and his name is Sid, he starts getting angrier and angrier and angrier. And he's like force levitating shit, and like the ground is like moving up, and it's crazy. So you can see that this is how he just destroyed crime syndicates instantly and was able to close all the loops. But well, they call him like a one-man wrecking crew, and you don't really understand how that could happen until you see the way he pulls all this stuff off. So basically, the main climax of the movie and the final confrontation is when old Joe finally gets himself to the farm, and so they're kind of set up in a situation where Sid is like all the way over here, and then Emily Blunt's like in front of him, and there's a train coming, and then old Joe's here, and young Joe fucked up the mic. Young Joe, this is why I shouldn't do diagrams with my hands. Okay, young Joe is all the way here. He got screwed up by old Joe, and so old Joe has the shot, and he would have to kill Emily Blunt, and then the kid's on the train already to get to the kid. So instead of watching the loop continue where Rainmaker becomes Rainmaker because old Joe killed his mom and everything would just continue basically, young Joe just kills himself and then old Joe disappears because the old version of himself obviously wouldn't be there if the young version of himself killed himself. So young Joe shoots himself and that's the end of the movie. We end there. I think maybe it ends with Emily Blunt and the kid like hugging. So what I wanted to see at the end was just another scene of like Rainmaker going to freaking finance class or something and not becoming like a crime syndicate mauler. I thought that would be nice where like maybe they show a scene of him and Emily Blunt growing up and he becomes a 9 to 5 part of the Matrix, whatever. I don't know. I just thought that would be helpful instead of he still could basically grow up and just like rule the world if he wanted to. Just it's not gonna happen as bad because he's not as angry. Anyways, that was my only complaint with the ending. So I like the ending how young Joe has to kill himself to prevent his future self from shooting Emily Blunt and basically making Rainmaker the same thing, just the loop over and over again. So it kind of completes the story with the loop sentiment. Okay, so that's what happens at the end of the movie. So let's get into my thoughts and reactions. So first off, I thought the idea of a looper is just super interesting. Right when they introduce it, I thought you don't really see stuff like this, and I don't think I've seen a movie where there's kind of a concept like this where you are sending people back to deal with your present problems. I thought this was like really super interesting concept, and the way they kind of explain everything I thought was cool. So I just thought the idea of a looper was a super interesting ordeal, and I really appreciated that at the beginning of the movie. It kind of got me into the movie to start. Another thing I noticed was everyone in this dystopian society just has a shoddy. Like all of the basically non-vagrants just have like a pump shotgun ready to whip out at any moment. And that's why I wanted to see more about the town, because there's a scene in the town where a guy's like on a bus or something and there's like a vagrant and he just pulls out a shoddy and just like shoots him. Not even one of the loopers. So I wanted to see what was really going on in that town. Just everyone has a shoddy ready to go, double pump, whatever. Okay. So yeah, the idea when Seth has to close his loop, I thought that this is like a fucked idea. This is like kind of the whole idea of, would you want to know when you die or would you not want to know when you die? And I just feel like knowing for sure when you die, I can see the positives to it, because at least you have, I think it's 30 years you have once you close your loop, you're done. So at least in those 30 years you got to live the best of your life. But personally, for myself, I would not want to know when I die. So I just thought that this was kind of a fucked idea to like know when you're dying. And I don't know, I just thought it was another interesting layer to the closing your loop and looper concept. So at the beginning, I also didn't understand why everyone was closing their loop, but this was later explained. So we'll skip past that one. Yeah, I also thought it was kind of screwed up that you just basically shoot your future self. Like, why would you, I don't know. Obviously, we see Seth has an issue with this, even though it's like in their code of conduct, basically, that you're going to have to kill yourself at some point. But Seth has trouble with this, and then Joe has trouble with this, but Joe was actually trying to kill himself. So, yeah, so those issues or concerns I had were kind of explained, but those are just something I found interesting. Well, the idea of like shooting yourself is just, I don't know, would not want to do that. So first, when they introduced the name Rainmaker, just dope name, respect for villain / character. Had respect for that name, just wrote that down in my notes. So Abe is a boss in this movie. He's like the guy that they sent back to manage all the loops. I thought he was super respectable, just everything he does. He basically just grills Joe. In the first couple scenes when Seth goes rogue, they're like, Seth goes back to Joe's house and hides in like his safe, and then Abe basically like knows everything about Joe already, that he like was hiding money and he was keeping his money and ready to go to like China or something, but he basically just like gets Joe to give up his boy without like saying anything. So I just thought Abe was a super respectable character in this, and just the way he interacts with this other dumbass character, which I haven't even mentioned, Kid Blue, which it's probably why I brought the score down, because this Kid Blue character is like the typical like failed like mafioso / like guy trying to move up in the crime syndicate thing, and he's like the problem child who like they keep giving a chance to, and he always screws it up, and then he has to like prove his vengeance. I feel like I've seen that trope before, so I did not like Kid Blue, but the way Abe just kind of dealt with his whole organization I thought was respectable, and just the way he just grills people. So yeah, I was pretty surprised early on when Joe gave up Seth just that easily, but also it's like life or death. They were gonna take his money and he'd basically have nothing at that point. So I understand it, but I was just surprised it took like basically like 2 minutes of conversation to give up Seth. So yeah, I wanted to give up props to future Joe for the deflection with his back of gold, and then he's able to like knock out young Joe and escape. So that was just a good way of escaping. And at this point, I didn't even know that Bruce was old Joe. I don't think so. I was like, "Good girl" by Bruce Willis. I literally wrote that in my note. Okay, so yeah, and then this was the one scene where I was super confused, was where Joe does like kill his future self. So I did end up reading about this, so I lied earlier. There was this one thing I looked at, but so there's like two versions of him killing. The first version is the old Joe that escapes, but then he also like kills his old Joe Loop again. So maybe they just send someone back, and then he ends up moving to China and meeting this girl who cures his drug. Oh, this is another thing about the movies. They do like these eye drops, and they like. I'm not a drug user like that, so I don't know what it relates to, but it's like these weird eye drops where you're like drop in your eye, and then you like basically just become high somehow. And all like the loopers do it in this club and stuff, and Joe like develops like a dependency on it basically. Just thought that was a weird part of the story, but I guess it's drug abuse in life, so yeah. Anyways, where was I? Okay, yeah, so that part was really confusing to me about how he just killed himself and then sent himself back again. I don't know. Actually, I think I understand it. So I think he escapes before he knows he's going to get sent back to get killed. I don't know. We'll have to rehash that, whatever. So, yeah, basically, Bruce is old Joe is just a freaking beast in this movie. He just takes out mad people. He's like basically a certified like killer. Like everyone that tries to get him, he just knows everything. Well, he also knows everything that young Joe's gonna do just because he lived it. So he's able to like game plan for that and game plan around the future, I guess. So maybe he's not that much of a boss because he just basically knows everything that's gonna happen anyways. So yeah, another cool part of this looper thing is you can basically talk to yourself by carving stuff on your body. So we see where the quote unquote feds or Abe's people are able to get the current version of Seth, and they just carve stuff on his body, like messages on his arm and stuff, so that when the older version is in the world with them, they have it on their arm because it happened to them in the past, and you can like see the cuts and stuff. And so this was a cool scene in both where young Seth, they use it on him to carve stuff, so his older self comes to a building, and then he's eventually killed just because they whatever. And then we see it with young Joe carving stuff on his body so old Joe can see. And then this is where they end up meeting at a diner. So I love them arguing with each other. We got like young arrogant Joe who's just like trying to be like this whatever and be morally right, and old Joe's like, I literally know everything you're about to say because I literally lived your life. Like it's just a future version of yourself. So I love this two versions of the same person arguing, one from the future and one from the past. So yeah, when Rainmaker comes for Joe, they get his wife, and this was pretty sad to me just because I like the wife like seemed to really they did a really good like montage thing where they were able to kind of portray her impact on Joe. Like she cures the drug problem, she makes him happy. So when she was dying, I was pretty sad. So basically this argument scene happens at a diner where they both get the same thing, steak and eggs, and they're just arguing, and there's just steak and eggs on the table for like 20 minutes, and I was like, why is no one eating these steak and eggs? They look pretty good. So I just thought that was funny. And this stupid waitress that he's like in love with, which she's not even that attractive, so you can do better, Joseph Gordon-Levitt. Okay, and then we go to the farm where we have Emily Blunt and her kid. The first time we meet her, she freaking falls on her ankle, which is another thing that just keeps happening apparently. And so right away I was like, this kid's probably Rainmaker, just because like plot, but I had that clocked pretty early on, for the record. So we have old Joe just going around and killing these two kids, and I was like, damn, this guy really is cold blooded. He doesn't care. I guess I don't know. It's like this brings up a moral debate of if you should kill like baby Hitler. We always, I think it was in what is it, Avengers Endgame, where Don Cheadle's just like, should we just go up to baby Thanos and just like kill him? So I don't know. What do you guys think? Would you kill an old or kill a child to prevent things to happen in the future? Comment below. Moral dilemma of the day. Okay, so yeah, then as the movie went on, I was reassured that Sid was definitely the Rainmaker, and this scene happens where him and Emily Blunt, his mom, get into this huge argument, and she like locks herself into a safe. This is when he like shifts the ground and everything. So I was like, this kid has serious demons. Like, what's his problem? I don't even know. He's like, you're not my mom, because apparently the sister raised him and whatever. I don't know. It's a weird dynamic with the kid. I don't know. He's got demons. He needs help. Of course, there's a stupid scene where Joe ends up coming to protect Emily Blunt and the kid from old Joe. And of course, after like 2 days of protecting her, they have to make out. There has to be romance. Blah blah blah. I thought this was stupid, but respect to her for initiating it. She like uses the little frog thing they have to communicate. So cool, whatever. Make out, have fun, live life. Okay, so yeah, eventually old Joe comes to the confrontation, and this other guy comes from like the Looper organization to come and get Joe, and he like has Emily Blunt captive, and then Sid just like fucks up the whole house. He like blows it up. So that was cool. Definitely the Rainmaker by this point. There was no question in my mind. Got to pour one out for the homie Abe. He dies from old Joe just destroying everyone. We love you, Abe. Maybe we'll meet you in the future when you're dead in the future now. Okay. Sorry. R.I.P. bro. Okay, and then we get the last scene that I was talking about in the spoiler section, and friggin' Emily Blunt falls again. She just loves falling. And then I already gave my explanation on the ending. So that's really all I had to say about Looper. Great movie, top of my list for reviews as of right now. If there's any other movies you guys want me to review after this, let me know in the comments. Let me know on all the social medias. I'm on Instagram, TikTok, X, YouTube. So what will be in the future? Debating, having another moral debate. This one more serious. No, it's not this serious. Should I do a review of All the President's Men? We'll see. I might just record it, see how long see if it's worth anything. Probably just post it anyway. So expect a review of All the President's Men soon. First guest is coming on the podcast. We will be recording as of today when this video comes out on Sunday, and it will be my updated thoughts and analysis for the second round of the NHL and NBA playoffs, my reactions to UFC 301 and the NFL draft, which is my updated sports talk thing that I've been talking about for a while. So those will be the probably next two episodes. Going to be wrapping up McGregor Forever soon, so I'll have a review on that. Survivor next week. So yeah, still going to be a lot of content wherever you get your podcasts. Again, appreciate the love with the 5-star ratings and the just playing my stuff. And yeah, stay tuned on Instagram and social media for teaser videos I do when the new podcasts are out, so you're aware of when the new podcasts are out. All right, guys. Let me know your thoughts of Looper, if you had any, if you watched this movie. What did I say wrong? What did I say right? Did you agree? Did you not agree with any of the parts I said? All right. Have a good one. And don't get your loop closed.